Hello and a warm welcome to the Organ Loft of Leeds Minster for the first in our summer term series of virtual organ recitals. Today I'm going to play you 8 short pieces, and they're all from a collection of miniatures called the Hovingham Sketches. In total there were 11 Hovingham Sketches, but 8 of them are published in a single volume, and so they're the 8 that I'm going to play today. For your interest, the 3 pieces that I'm not going to play are as follows. I won't be playing Puck's Shadow by Richard Popplewell, the Scherzetto by Arthur Wills, or indeed the Trio by Peter Herford. But I'll talk about the 8 pieces that I am going to play in just a moment. These Hovingham Sketches were composed by different council members of the Royal College of Organists, and they were given as a gift to Catherine, the Duchess of Kent, in 1974. Now, the Duchess herself is musical. She learnt the piano, the organ, the violin while she was at Queen Margaret's School in Escrick, near York, and continues to play to this day. She's worked as a music teacher. For many years she was involved closely with the Leeds International Piano Competition and also with the Rydale Festival. Hovingham is a beautiful village in North Yorkshire in the Howardian Hills, and Hovingham Hall indeed has been the family seat of the Worsley family, the Kents, for some 450 years. Before I introduce the pieces, I should just point out we've had 1 or 2 problems with this organ over the last few days, around Holy Week and into the Easter weekend. And there are various problems that materialised whilst recording this afternoon. It's meant 2 things. Occasionally you might hear a slightly strange undulant sound just shining through, and that's probably where a stop is engaging that I didn't ask to be drawn, and yet it's sort of half sounding nevertheless. And at various stages I've had to be slightly more conservative in my registrations just for the sake of comfort and knowing that things are going to sound as intended than I might have been. So I'm sorry about that. Our organ builder is coming later in the week to attend to these issues. Rather than list all 8 pieces, I'll introduce the pieces in pairs and then play a pair and then talk about a pair and play another pair. So the first 2 pieces then. I open with a piece by Harold Darke, 1888 to 1976, and he was the organist of St Michael Cornhill in the City of London for some 50 years. And he's credited with establishing the longest running continuous weekly organ recital series in the world. There. His interlude from this collection is in triple time. It starts and it finishes gently, it builds in the middle, and it has perhaps an Anglican flavour to it. You can imagine it as a pre-service improvisation or something of that type. But the second piece is by a non-conformist organist. This is Eric Thiman. He lived from 1900 to 1975, and this is his Scherzetto for the flutes, so flute-type sonorities in terms of the registration. He was Professor of Harmony at the Royal Academy of Music in London, and also was organist at the City Temple, a Congregationalist church in London. Sir George Thalben-Ball is our third composer. He succeeded Sir Henry Welford Davis as the organist of the Temple Church in 1923, and there he stayed for almost 60 years. And he was also, for more than 3 decades, the Birmingham city organist. As a virtuoso keyboard player, his skills extended very much to the piano as well, and in fact he gave the very first performance by an English-trained musician of Rachmaninoff's fiendishly difficult third piano concerto as soloist. His stately Edwardia, from this collection, evokes a bygone romantic era with its chromaticism and its almost Wagnerian sense of voice leading. I follow it by a piece by the single living composer today of this collection, Francis Jackson, and that of course is a name that conjures up immediately York and its Minster. He's now aged 103 and a half. Born in Malton, he studied and succeeded Sir Edward Bairstow at York and held that post from 1946 to 1982. His piece is entitled The Sweet Rivelet, and its lilting triple time and its florid and figuration and gentle registration very much evoke the flow of water. My fifth piece is by William Lloyd Webber, 1914 to 1982, and he's known, of course, as the father of Sir Andrew and Sir Julian Lloyd Webber, but was an important musical figure in his own right, tutoring at the Royal College of Music in music theory, holding the organist post at All Saints Margaret Street in London, and directing the choir at the Methodist Central Hall in Westminster. He composed widely in a range of genres, and his style very much imbued with a late romantic warmth to it. In his latter years, he felt that his compositional style was increasingly at odds with the prevailing direction of musical composition of the day. This late trio, interestingly, has something of a neo-Baroque flavour to it, and of course was written at a time in organ construction in the 1970s, when an interest in classical specifications and classical aspects of organ design were really very much in vogue. From there to Arthur Pritchard, 1908 to 1997, pupil and assistant organist of Herbert Brewer at Gloucester. He studied for a doctorate at Durham and then taught at the Royal Academy of Music for many years and was chairman of the Royal College of Organists. This is his canzonetta. It's a very short piece indeed, in trio form, and it sort of has a abiding feature of 5-bar melodic phrases to it, so a slightly unusual length in terms of the number of bars to each of these melodic phrases. finally, my last two pieces. Bernard Rose was for many years the Informator Choristarum at Magdalen College, Oxford, basically means the organist, where his pupils included Kenneth Leighton, Sir Harry Christophers, and Dudley Moore. His setting of the préces and responses is sung by just about every Anglican choir going, but today we hear his sweet miniature chimes. This uses triads and mutation registrations to fill in as many of the higher harmonics as possible, to give a bell-like character to the sound. This piece is remarkable because it's actually a palindrome. Now, just underneath the title, it says in French, my end is my beginning, and my beginning is my end. Ma fin est mon commencement, et mon commencement est ma fin. So if you listen very carefully, or indeed if you have a score, study a score, you may well be able to spot that the figuration that you hear at the beginning is flipped back upon itself in the second half of the piece, but it's beautifully done and very subtly so. And so it may or may not be obvious, but that is an interesting underlying principle behind the musical structure of this piece, that of the palindrome. Finally, I play the Epilogue by Herbert Howells to round off these 8 Hovingham sketches. Herbert Howells, a name associated with fabulous choral anthems and settings, as well as the sonata, psalm preludes and rhapsodies for the organ. This is his Epilogue. It has the energy of a rhapsody to it, very much, and various fanfare flourishes and scale runs, so a highly energetic piece. Many of the other pieces have been really very gentle. This one's a little bit more raucous, perhaps, calling upon the full resources of the instrument, and with Howells's wonderfully distinctive and colourful harmony. I'm afraid this was the piece where some of the problems that we're experiencing with the instrument shine through most, so I would have used a greater variety of colours, but I've erred on the safe side, and apologies if you hear the odd strange sound creeping in there of something not quite blending or not quite in tune. That's probably a stop that was lingering too long and outstaying its welcome. Anyway, we finish with Herbert Howells to round off this set of 8 pieces, and I hope you've enjoyed the variety of this little set of Hovingham sketches. Thank you.